The dim light of the old library flickered like a dying ember, casting long shadows over the dusty shelves that held secrets from centuries past. In that hushed sanctuary, where the air smelled of aged paper and forgotten dreams, an elderly man with trembling hands clutched a worn book, his eyes welling with tears he could no longer hold back. "Young man," he whispered to the boy sitting nearby, his voice cracking like brittle leaves underfoot, "could you read this poem aloud for me? It's the one that saved my life once, and now it might just break my heart all over again." The boy, no more than 12, looked up from his comic book, his wide eyes meeting the stranger's gaze. He was a scruffy kid named Alex, with tousled brown hair and a backpack slung over one shoulder, the kind of boy who wandered into libraries to escape the chaos of his foster home. Hesitant at first, Alex nodded, taking the book gently as if it were a fragile artifact. The poem was titled Whispers of Eternity, a piece about loss, love, and the fragile threads that bind generations. As he began to read, his young voice steady and clear, the words filled the room like a gentle rain. In the quiet hours when shadows creep and memories like ghosts do weep. Mr. Harold Thompson, the retired teacher, leaned back in his creaky wooden chair, closing his eyes as the verses washed over him. It had been 50 years since he'd last heard this poem read aloud, not since his late wife, Eleanor, had recited it on their wedding night under a starlit sky. Back then, he was a young educator full of fire, teaching literature to high school students in a small Midwestern town. Life had been vibrant, filled with the laughter of pupils and the warmth of home. But time, that relentless thief, had stolen it all. Eleanor to cancer, his career to mandatory retirement, and his purpose to the void of loneliness. Now, at 78, Harold spent his days in this library, the only place where echoes of his past still lingered. Alex's reading grew more confident with each line. The heart remembers what the mind forgets, in silken webs of sweet regrets. The boy paused occasionally, glancing at Harold, who nodded encouragement. There was something magnetic about the old man's presence, a quiet dignity that drew Alex in, reminding him of the grandfather he'd never known. Alex's life had been a whirlwind of instability, bounced from one foster family to another after his parents' tragic car accident when he was 5. Reading had become his refuge, a way to escape into worlds where heroes always triumphed. But this poem felt different. It stirred emotions he didn't fully understand, like a key turning in a long-locked door. As the poem unfolded, Harold's mind drifted to memories of his classroom. He recalled a student named Tommy, a troubled boy much like Alex, who had found solace in poetry during a difficult time. Harold had mentored him, reading this very poem to inspire resilience. Tommy had gone on to become a successful writer, crediting Harold in his first book. Those were the moments that defined Harold's life, the quiet victories of shaping young minds. Yet, in retirement, he felt invisible, a relic gathering dust. Hearing Alex read now rekindled a spark, a reminder that wisdom didn't fade, it waited to be shared. The library around them seemed to come alive with the words. Patrons glanced over, some smiling softly, others pausing in their tasks. An elderly librarian named Mrs. Whitaker, with her silver bun and wire-rimmed glasses, hovered nearby, pretending to shelve books, but listening intently. She knew Harold well. He'd been a fixture here for years, always polite but profoundly alone. As Alex reached the poem's midpoint, where rivers meet the endless sea, and souls entwine in destiny, Harold's hand reached out, resting lightly on the boy's arm. "You're doing beautifully," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. Alex blushed but continued, feeling a strange connection forming, like invisible threads weaving between them. By the time Alex finished the stanza about enduring love, Harold was transported back to Eleanor's final days. She had asked him to read this poem to her in the hospital, her frail hand in his, as machines beeped a somber rhythm. "It reminds me of us," she'd said, her smile weak but genuine. The memory hit Harold like a wave, and a single tear escaped down his weathered cheek. Alex noticed, pausing midline. "Are you okay, sir?" he asked, concern etching his young face. Harold wiped his eye, forcing a smile. "More than okay, son. That poem, it was my wife's favorite. She passed 10 years ago, and hearing it again. It's like she's here. Alex's heart ached. He knew loss too well. I'm sorry, he said softly. My parents died when I was little. Reading helps me remember them sometimes. In that shared vulnerability, a bond ignited two souls adrift, finding harbor in words. As the afternoon light slanted through the windows, casting golden hues on the oak tables, Harold shared stories of his teaching days. He spoke of inspiring students to dream big, of late-night grading sessions fueled by passion, and the joy of seeing former pupils succeed. Alex listened raptly, his comic book forgotten. For the first time in years, Harold felt seen, his experiences valued. And Alex, often overlooked in his foster world, felt heard. They delved deeper into the poem's themes. Harold explained metaphors of time as a river, flowing inexorably but carrying treasures along. Alex shared how the lines about regrets mirrored his own fears of forgetting his parents' faces. The conversation flowed naturally, bridging the gap of decades. Mrs. Whitaker, unable to resist, approached with a tray of cookies from the staff room. You two make quite the pair, she said warmly. Harold, it's good to see you smiling again. As the session wound down, Harold asked Alex to read the poem once more, savoring each word. The boy's voice rose and fell, infusing the verses with youthful energy that contrasted Harold's weary timbre. It was a symphony of generations, harmonizing in unexpected beauty. But as the last line echoed, in whispers soft, eternity calls, binding us all in hallowed halls, Harold felt a pang. This encounter, so profound, might be fleeting. Little did he know, fate had more in store. The library clock ticked onward, marking the end of their impromptu meeting. Alex handed back the book, his eyes bright. That was cool, sir. Thanks for letting me read it. Harold nodded, gratitude swelling in his chest. No, thank you, young man. You've given an old teacher a gift today. As Alex shouldered his backpack and headed toward the exit, Harold watched him go, a mix of joy and melancholy stirring within. Perhaps this was just a moment, but it felt like the start of something meaningful. Outside, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in oranges and pinks. Harold gathered his things slowly, his mind replaying the afternoon. For the first time in ages, he didn't feel quite so alone. And Alex, walking home, clutched the poem's essence in his heart, wondering if he'd see the old man again. The next day dawned crisp and clear, but Harold's heart carried the warmth of yesterday's encounter like a cherished ember. He returned to the library earlier than usual, his steps lighter, hoping against hope that the boy Alex, as he'd introduced himself, might reappear. Settling into his familiar chair, book in hand, Harold flipped to the poem once more, tracing the lines with a finger that bore the scars of time. Alex, meanwhile, had barely slept. The poem haunted his dreams, its words intertwining with fragments of his parents' voices. In his foster home, a modest house on the edge of town where 3 other kids vied for attention, Alex felt like a shadow. But yesterday, in the library, he'd been the center of something real. Determined, he skipped his usual after-school hangout and headed straight back, his backpack heavier with curiosity. Spotting Harold from afar, Alex's face lit up. Hey, sir. Mind if I join you again? Harold's eyes sparkled. I'd be delighted, Alex. Shall we pick up where we left off? They dove back into the poem, this time discussing its layers. Harold explained how the author, a reclusive poet from the 19th century, had written it during a personal crisis, infusing it with raw emotion. Alex shared his interpretation, the silken webs as family ties that death couldn't sever. As they talked, the library buzzed softly around them, children giggling in the kids' section, students typing essays, the occasional page turned like a whisper. Harold felt a surge of purpose. Teaching had always been his calling, and here was a willing pupil. He pulled out a notebook, sketching connections between the poem and classic literature. See, it's like Shakespeare's sonnets, timeless reflections on love and loss. Alex absorbed it all, his mind expanding. But beneath his enthusiasm lurked insecurity. Do you think I'm good at reading? My foster mom says I mumble. Harold placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You're exceptional, son. Your voice brings the words to life in a way mine can't anymore. Those words ignited a fire in Alex, a belief in himself he'd long lacked. Their sessions became a routine. Each afternoon, they'd meet, reading not just the poem, but branching into stories and essays. Harold shared anecdotes from his career. The student who overcame dyslexia to become a lawyer, the class that staged a poetry slam to raise funds for charity. Alex opened up about his life, the ache of missing his parents, the uncertainty of foster care. Sometimes I feel like I'm just waiting for something bad to happen, he confessed one day, voice trembling. Harold's heart broke for the boy. Life can be cruel, Alex, but it's the connections we forge that give us strength. He recalled his own hardships. Losing Eleanor had plunged him into despair, but teaching had pulled him through. Now, in retirement, Alex was reigniting that spark. Yet, a subtle worry gnawed at Harold. His health was failing. Arthritis made his hands ache, and a recent doctor's visit hinted at something more serious. One rainy afternoon, as thunder rumbled outside, they explored the poem's climax. Through storms that rage and winds that howl, the spirit endures, unbroken, proud. Alex read with passion, rain pattering against the windows like applause. Suddenly, the door burst open, admitting a gust of wind and a woman in her 40s, drenched and frantic. "Alex, there you are? I've been looking everywhere." It was Ms. Rivera, Alex's foster mother, a kind but overwhelmed social worker juggling multiple kids. She eyed Harold suspiciously. "Who is this?" Alex jumped up. "This is Mr. Thompson. He's teaching me about poetry." Ms. Rivera softened slightly, but remained wary. "You shouldn't talk to strangers, Alex. Come on, we're late for dinner." Harold stood, extending a hand. "I'm Harold Thompson, retired teacher. Your boy has a real talent." Ms. Rivera hesitated, then shook it. "Nice to meet you. Just be careful." As they left, Alex glanced back, waving. Harold waved too, but a twist of unease settled in. Was this the end? Or just a hurdle? The encounter lingered. Harold pondered Ms. Rivera's caution, understandable in a world full of dangers. But he saw potential in Alex, a chance to make a difference. The next day, Alex returned alone, apologetic. "Sorry about yesterday. She's just protective." Harold smiled. "No harm done. Let's continue." Their bond deepened. Harold began assigning homework, short poems to read and discuss. Alex thrived, his confidence blooming. One evening, as the library closed, Harold shared a personal artifact, a faded photo of Eleanor, young and radiant. She loved this poem because it reminded her of our journey. Alex studied it. "She looks happy. I wish I had more pictures of my mom and dad." In that moment, Harold felt a paternal urge. "Memories are more than photos, Alex. They're in the stories we tell." The boy nodded, eyes misty. But as days passed, Harold noticed Alex seeming distracted, shadows under his eyes. "What's wrong?" he pressed gently. Alex sighed. "My foster placement might change. They're talking about moving me to another town." The news hit Harold like a blow. Just when he'd found purpose again, it threatened to slip away. "We can't let that happen," he said firmly. "Poetry teaches resilience. We'll face this together." Unbeknownst to them, Mrs. Whitaker had been observing. That afternoon, she approached with a surprise. "Harold, Alex, I have someone who'd like to meet you." Enter Mr. Jenkins, a local community organizer and former student of Harold's. Tall, with a warm grin, he extended a hand. "Mr. Thompson, you don't remember me, but you changed my life with that poetry unit back in '85. The twist caught Harold off guard. Jenkins explained. Now running a youth mentorship program, he'd heard about their sessions from Mrs. Whitaker. "I'd love to formalize this, make Alex your official mentee. It could help with his placement stability." Alex's eyes widened. "Really?" Harold beamed, the unexpected ally shifting everything. For the first time, hope eclipsed fear. As they discussed details, the poem's themes echoed, bonds enduring through storms. Jenkins shared his story, how Harold's encouragement led him from delinquency to success. It added layers, emphasizing the ripple effect of kindness. Alex felt valued, part of something larger. The day ended on a high note, but challenges loomed. Harold's health concerns resurfaced. A cough he'd ignored worsened. Yet, with this new support, he pushed on, determined to guide Alex. Weeks turned into months, and the library became a haven of growth for Harold and Alex. With Mr. Jenkins' involvement, their meetings gained structure. Weekly sessions blending poetry analysis with life lessons. Alex's grades improved, his foster mother noticed the positive change, and even reluctantly approved the mentorship. Harold, invigorated, felt years younger, though his body protested with increasing aches. One crisp fall day, as leaves swirled outside, they revisited the poem. Read it with feeling, Alex let the words breathe. The boy obliged, his voice now rich with nuance. In the dance of light and shadows play, we find our path, come what may. Harold listened, pride swelling. But midway, Alex faltered. Sir, what if I mess up in life? Like really bad? Harold pondered, drawing from his own regrets. We all stumble, son. I once turned away a student in need because I was too buried in my grief after Eleanor died. It haunted me. But redemption comes in second chances like this one with you. Alex absorbed the wisdom, the vulnerability forging deeper trust. Their circle expanded. Jenkins introduced Lila, a teenage girl in the program, sharp-witted with a love for spoken word. She joined a session, adding fresh perspectives. This poem's about legacy, she said, her braids swaying as she gestured. What we leave behind. Alex nodded, inspired, while Harold marveled at the youthful energy. But twists lurked. One evening, Harold arrived pale, suppressing coughs. Alex noticed. You okay? Harold waved it off. Just a cold. Truth was, his doctor had diagnosed early-stage lung issues, a legacy of youthful smoking. He hadn't told anyone, fearing it would end their time together. As winter approached, snow blanketing the town, Alex shared exciting news. My social worker says if things go well, I might get adopted by the Riveras. Harold's joy was bittersweet. Stability for Alex meant potential separation. That's wonderful, he said, masking his sorrow. During a particularly emotional reading, hearts entwined in eternal thread, through life and beyond. Unafraid, Lila interjected with a surprise. Mr. Thompson, I dug into the poet's history. Turns out, he wrote this after losing his child. It's not just romance. It's about parental love, too. The revelation hit like lightning. Alex's eyes met Harold's, the subtext clear, their bond mirrored that. This twist shifted perspectives. Harold saw himself as a surrogate grandfather, Alex as the son he never had. It amplified emotions, tears flowing freely. You've become family to me, Harold admitted. Alex hugged him impulsively, a rare gesture. Yet, Harold's health deteriorated. He missed a session, calling in sick. Alex worried, visiting with Jenkins. At Harold's modest apartment, cluttered with books, they found him frail but spirited. Can't keep an old teacher down, he joked. But the visit revealed his isolationo family, few friends. Inspired, Alex rallied. With Lila's help, he organized a poetry reading event at the library, honoring Harold. It's a surprise, he whispered. Invitations went out to former students, community members. Mrs. Whitaker decorated, Jenkins emceed. The night arrived, library aglow with string lights. Harold, unsuspecting, entered to applause. What's this? He gasped. Alex beamed. Your legacy, sir. Former pupils shared stories. Tommy the writer, now famous, flew in. You saved me with that poem, he said, embracing Harold. Alex took the stage, reading Whispers of Eternity flawlessly. The room hushed, emotions palpable. Harold wept openly, the outpouring overwhelming. It was a pinnacle of human connection, generations linked by words. But amid joy, Harold's cough worsened, forcing him to sit. Later, alone with Alex, he confessed his illness. I didn't want to burden you. Alex's face crumpled. You're not a burden, my hero. The vulnerability deepened their bond, teaching resilience. As the event wrapped, Lila pulled Alex aside. I found something else about the Poe that had a secret benefactor who funded his work anonymously. Kinda like how Mr. Thompson is for you. Another layer, emphasizing quiet acts of kindness. Harold, reflecting, realized this chapter had reignited his soul. Alex had given him purpose. In return, he'd imparted wisdom. Yet, with health failing, time felt precious. The following weeks brought challenges. Harold's treatments began, draining his energy. Alex visited daily, reading aloud to cheer him. Their roles subtly shifted, Alex becoming the supporter, reciting the poem as comfort. One stormy night, as wind howled, Alex arrived soaked. I ran here because I need to tell you something. He revealed a nightmare, fears of losing Harold like his parents. Harold held him close. I'm not going anywhere yet. And even if the poem teaches us bonds endure. In this twist of roles, emotions peaked. Harold shared a final secret. Years ago, he'd anonymously sponsored a scholarship for foster kids, inspired by Tommy. One recipient was your social workers program. Alex's jaw dropped, the connection full circle. It humanized Harold further, showcasing selfless giving. Alex vowed to pay it forward, dreaming of becoming a teacher. As spring neared, Harold's condition stabilized, thanks to early detection. Their sessions resumed, stronger. The poem, once a trigger of pain, became a beacon of hope. Spring blossomed, mirroring the renewal in Harold and Alex's lives. With treatments progressing, Harold regained strength, his cough subdued. The mentorship program flourished, Alex at its heart, inspiring peers like Lila. But deeper currents stirred questions of legacy and farewell. One sunny afternoon, they sat outside the library, poem in hand. Final stanza, Alex. And in the end, when stars align, our whispers echo, divine. The boy read with gravitas, wind rustling pages like applause. Harold smiled. You've mastered it, not just the words, but the soul. Their talks evolved. Harold discussed mortality openly. Eleanor taught me to cherish every moment. This poem was her goodbye. Alex, maturing, shared aspirations. I want to teach, like you. Help kids who feel lost. Harold's eyes misted. You already are, son. Unexpectedly, Tommy returned, offering to publish their story, a book of intergenerational poetry exchanges. It'll immortalize your bond, he said. Alex hesitated, but Harold encouraged. Share the magic. The project began, sessions turning collaborative. Twist came via Ms. Rivera. At a meeting, she revealed, Alex, we've decided to adopt you officially. Joy erupted, but with it, relocation talks to a nearby city for her job. Alex's heart sank. What about Mr. Thompson? Harold, stoic, hid his pain. Happiness first, Alex. We'll stay connected. But inwardly, loss loomed. The news amplified drama. Celebration tinged with sorrow. Lila, sensing tension, organized a farewell reading if it came to that. Not goodbye, just see you later. The event drew crowds, former students, foster families, community. Alex read the poem, voice steady but emotional. Harold followed, his timbre frail yet powerful. Midway, a surprise guest, Harold's estranged niece, Sarah, contacted by Jenkins. Petite with Eleanor's eyes, she approached tearfully. Uncle Harold, I saw the event online. I'm sorry I've been distant. The reunion twisted narratives. Harold wasn't utterly alone. Family lingered, waiting reconciliation. Sarah shared. After Eleanor's death, grief had driven wedges. But hearing about you and Alex, it reminded me of family. Harold embraced her, forgiveness flowing. Alex witnessed, learning reconciliation's power. The twist reframed everything. Bonds mended, circles completed. Sarah promised visits, even offering Harold a room if needed. But he declined gently. My home's here, with memories and new ones. As adoption finalized, Alex prepared to move. Their last library session was poignant. Read it one more time, Harold requested. Alex did, words hanging heavy, binding us all in hallowed halls. Tears fell. You've given me family again, Alex said. Harold nodded. And you've given me hope. Remember, the poem lives in you. Parting was bittersweet. Alex hugged Harold fiercely. To be continued, right? Harold chuckled. Always. Months later, letters flowed. Alex thriving in his new home, acing school, starting a poetry club. Harold, with Sarah's support, wrote the book, dedicating it to Alex. One day, Harold received a package, Alex's first poem, echoing theirs. In whispers new, our story grows, through time and tide, the heart knows. Harold read it aloud in the library, alone but not lonely. The words bridged distance, embodying endurance. Years passed. Harold's health held, Sarah a constant. Alex graduated, becoming a teacher, crediting Harold in speeches. At Harold's 85th birthday, Alex surprised him, now a young man, family in tow. Couldn't miss it. They recited the poem together, voices blending. In that moment, the poem's essence crystallized, love transcending time, generations linked in humanity's tapestry. Loss shaped them, but connection healed. Harold, content, knew his legacy endured not in accolades, but hearts touched. Alex, fulfilled, carried the torch. And so, in life's quiet library, their story whispered on, a testament to kindness's ripple.